Hey y'all, Mr. Hansen here. I want to walk you through the process for setting up a design to be laser cut or laser engraved. The easiest software to use is going to be Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to walk through the process of setting something up to engrave on our laser cutter. You will need to access Adobe Creative Cloud and sign in using your email. Don't use the continue with Google. Select the company or school account. Let's see. All right. There should be you should be able to actually access this on your Chromebook using the virtual machine setup, and I can show you how to do that in class if you'd like to access this software on your Chromebook. But it is set up on all my lab desktop computers. Adobe Illustrator is a 2D, what's called a vector graphics software. So if you look at the laser cutter, it's got a laser that moves around and cuts things out. Obviously, it needs like a two-dimensional profile to perform its maneuvers, and so Adobe Illustrator is just that. It's software geared towards two-dimensional design. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Illustrator. It might take a second. And so there are kind of two operations we can do with a laser engraver or laser cutter. We can cut through stuff, and we can engrave stuff, which is not cutting all the way through material, but is putting a pattern onto some type of material. And so we can also use what are called vector drawings versus what are called raster drawings. So vector drawing is a drawing comprised up of lines. Super useful if you want to cut something out, versus a raster drawing, which is something that's made up out of like pixels. And that's typically what we'd use to engrave a design on material. And so if you want to get set up on this opening screen in Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to create a new file. You'll notice on the right side, there's a few things we need to just double check and make sure are good to go. So we want to look at the width and height, and that's going to be the width and height of what I want to, let's say the overall width and height of what I either want to cut out or engrave. So I've got actually a piece of material loaded up in my laser cutter. I want to cut 6 inches. Ooh, that's more like 12 inches by 6 inches. If this is the first time you're pulling up Adobe, it might default like pixels or points or something like that. You can hit that drop-down box. Probably makes the most sense to either work in inches or centimeters, whatever you're comfortable with. The other thing I want to make sure you have set up is the color mode. Again, it might default to CMYK, which is used a lot in graphic design, but our printer, the print drivers only understand RGB colors. So it's like red, green, blue color formats. All right, that's actually all you need to do to get your file set up. So I'm going to create that. And that's going to give me an artboard. This is my canvas for doing my drawing and design. And so there are tools for making patterns. Obviously, there's a pen tool. I can draw straight lines, and I can draw all kinds of curves. If you click and hold down, you can see like the different shape tools. So you can make shapes. There is text tools. Where you can make text. And over on this right-hand side, there's this properties menu, and that'll give you a bunch of resources for working with that, whatever you're drawing. And so, for example, if I got text open here, I can change my text to different fonts, different sizes. So you can play around with that. I think that's pretty straightforward. Escape is the tool that the button that you typically want to hit to get out of stuff, like if you're locking your text. Another handy thing is V. is the select tool, and that'll let you click and select things. You can also, I'm going to actually click all these guys and delete them. You can also import designs either from Onshape or from pictures or images that you find online or that you create yourself. So I've actually got a design I want to cut out here. This is a little hydraulic arm that I'm designing for one of my classes. And so we can actually take a profile from our CAD software. If we right click that, there's an option to export as a drawing file. And if you export that as a drawing file, you could actually drag and drop pictures into Adobe Illustrator. And that'll put your design in here. I actually need 2 of these to make my design, so I'm going to Control-C, Control-V, and drag a second copy of this. Let me get a few more pieces from my arm. So you can do something similar with images. If you find images, if you also go to File, there's a Place tool. That's another place where you can get, let's see, pieces of your design, and you can place them at specific locations in your on your artboard. Now, to actually cut this stuff out, let me select everything. We have to set the stroke of our cut. So there's 2 things that kind of affect the line and the orientation of lines to other parts of the design. There's fill, which is what the color that's going to be inside the object. So I could go in and add a fill, which I don't want for this design because I want to actually cut these guys out. You can also change the stroke, which is how thick the line is. So for our laser cutter to recognize this as a line that it needs to cut, we need to set this stroke width to something really small. 0.01 works pretty well. So that will make these lines really light, but our printer will recognize them as things that need to be cut. So as far as preparing your file to laser cut, and that's pretty much it. The only other thing I'm going to add is that I've actually got 2 different what are called pens set up in the laser cutter. So under this stroke, the way I've got it set up is that black I'm using for engraving. So that's going to be like a low power, high speed for the laser cutter, so it won't cut all the way through. And I'm using red as my stroke color to indicate something that I want to cut. So if you want to cut something out, I need to make that stroke red. And so pretty easy to change that from the properties menu over there on the side. So that's it as far as setting up your file for print. If you're working on a one of your computers, we'll have to open up this file on the computer connected to the laser cutter. If you'll go to File and go ahead and save your work, it's an Adobe Illustrator file, and either email that to yourself or stick it in your Google Drive so we can access it on the laser cutter.